So when it comes to learning how to use the modes when improvising or just writing a solo for a song, there's pretty much two ways you can go about it. The first way is to go ahead and learn the music theory, be able to analyze chord progressions and riffs, and then you can determine which mode will actually fit over that by just knowing the theory of it. Now the pros of this is that you will have a very deep understanding of things, and this is helpful because it means you can troubleshoot problems. You know, if you're playing over something and it's not quite fitting, you can really go ahead and analyze things and see what's going on. But the cons are that it takes quite a while to develop a good enough understanding or foundation for it to actually be practical and for you to be able to use this stuff. And you don't want to have to write down the chord chart every time you're wanting to solo and analyze the chord progression, and it takes quite a while. Now the second way is to just go ahead and develop your ear. Now this is great because it requires fewer steps and you just kind of hear something and then you're just able to play over it. However, it still takes a lot of practice, and knowing where to start can be quite challenging and quite daunting. Now the cons with this is that you can't really troubleshoot things. You know, if you're not sure what to play and your ear can't figure it out, then you're kind of screwed. Now in an ideal world, you actually learn both. You learn the music theory and you train your ear, and the two are actually pretty intertwined, which you'll see as you go on your musical journey. But in this video, I'm just going to show you the most practical way to train your ear, and we're just going to focus on soloing in minor keys. So we're going to be using the Dorian mode, the Phrygian mode, and the Aeolian mode, or the minor scale, natural minor scale, whatever you want to call it. All the same thing. And I'll be making another video talking about the major modes and how to train your ear to be able to hear when you can use them, but I'll make that video in a later date. Now first off, there is a tiny bit of music theory I just want to go over. This is just going to give this lesson way more context, and it doesn't matter if you don't completely understand this, but it's still just important we go over it. So these three modes, Dorian, Phrygian, and Aeolian, they're all 7-note scales, and they're derived from the Ionian or the major scale. And they have 7 tones in them, and they all, each mode has different alterations from the 7 notes of the major scale. So if we look at Dorian, we can see there's a 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7. Ignore the boxes, the red boxes and blue boxes for now. Phrygian is the other minor mode that fits in minor harmony out of all the 7 modes. So we have 1, flat 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. Then we have Aeolian, or the minor scale, and this is 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. Okay, so they all have 7 notes, they all have different formulas. Now, if we look at this, we can actually see that if we look at the red boxes, they all share a 1, they all share a flat 3, and they all have a 4, they all have a 5, and they all have a flat 7. Okay, so these 3 scales, or these 3 modes, they share 5 of the 7 notes. And funnily enough, if you've been following this channel, you probably know this. The 1, flat 3, 4, 5, and flat 7, or the notes in red boxes, actually make up your minor pentatonic scale. So all 3 of the minor modes, they have the minor pentatonic scale within them. So now that we know that they share a lot of the tones, and we know which ones are shared between them, we know which ones are going to give them their color, because obviously it's going to be the notes that differentiate them. So our 2s and 6s, because those are the notes that you can see are different between them. You know, if we look at Dorian, it has a normal 2 or a major second. Phrygian has a flat 2, Aeolian has a major second or a normal 2. And the 6, Dorian has a major 6, Phrygian has a flat 6, and Aeolian also has a flat 6. So right away we can kind of see what's going on there. And what I've done is, in these blue boxes, I've actually circled or squared, whatever, the note that I consider the most color note, or the colorful note of the mode. And these are the notes that if we train our ear to hear and pick up in chord progressions, then we're going to know which mode we can actually use to solo. Okay, very important. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with Dorian, and we're going to figure out where our 6 is within a Dorian shape. If this is our Dorian shape, our 6, okay, or our color note, let's just do it in A for now, is going to be this note here. This would be a 6. This would be a 6 here. So this note here This is the one we really want to listen for and maybe target when we're trying to figure out if this mode is going to work over a chord progression or jam track or whatever you're playing it over. So let's go onto YouTube. Okay, I've got a few jam tracks loaded up. I tried to find ones that didn't tell you what mode to use, but some of them do. But did the best I could. So this first one is in C sharp minor, and what we're going to do is play our Dorian scale in C sharp, and we're going to really target those color notes, and we're going to see if they clash over this jam track or if they fit. So if they clash, it means we probably don't want to use Dorian over this, and if it fits, then Dorian is probably going to be a good choice. And just one other thing that's important is there's a difference between tension notes or question notes and notes that just don't fit in the key. So the 2s and 6s, which are the notes we're going to be looking at for this video, they tend to be more question notes than answers. So they don't sound resolved, but they will still fit. So just being able to tell the difference between that is important. But let's go ahead and listen to this jam track. Turn it up a bit. Doesn't help when there's only drums. Here we go. So let's play through C sharp, minor, or Dorian. Now here's my 6, my color note. It sounds a bit off, right? If I go up an octave, sounds a bit off. So in this case, that 6 it clashes a bit too much. I would say that Dorian is not a good choice for this backing track. Let's try another one. Let's start this. Okay, so we'll play through. Oh, whoops, this one's an A, so now I have to play the scale in A. Here's my color note. That sounds alright. Oh, hang on. Doesn't sound too good now. So when the chord changed, I'll pause it here. When the chord changed, the color note didn't sound good. And this is something you might find often. Like over the first chord, you can get away with playing any mode. But then when another chord is introduced into the track, then you have to be a bit more picky about what mode or what scale you're going to use. So in this case, that 6 worked over the first chord, but then when it went to the next chord, it didn't fit so much. Let's have a listen to that again. So 6 sounds fine. Now the chord change. It's a bit rough. Yeah, let's keep going with it. Yeah. So again, this would be a track where I wouldn't use Dorian because on the first chord it works, but after that it just it sounds pretty terrible, if we're being honest. So let's move on. Let's try a different one. Okay, Pink Floyd. So this one's in G minor. So starting from G. So let's play through this. That sounds pretty good. Sounds pretty good. Still sounds good. Play through the scale a bit. So this is one of those cases. So Dorian sounded good over that whole cycle of chords, that whole chord progression. So this is a case where Dorian would be the go-to. And then you can play all your other Dorian shapes you know on the fretboard. Right, so Dorian fit over that entire thing. So over this Pink Floyd backing track in G minor, I would be using Dorian. There you go. Let's try another one. Old school heavy metal backing track in E minor. Let's try, so we're in E. So it works over some of the chords. Sounds a bit clashy over others though, and to be honest, Dorian is a lighter sound and it just doesn't suit the vibe of this one as much. So I probably wouldn't use Dorian in this case. So over these 4 backing tracks we've done, Dorian has fit over this Pink Floyd one, but the other ones just clashed a bit too much. So that's how you can get an idea of whether a mode's going to work. Just really targeting those color notes. In the case of this Dorian one, it was that major 6. Play it over the backing track and just see if it fits or not. Let's try some of the other modes. So let's do Aeolian next, even though Phrygian would be the next mode if you just go in the normal sequence of them. But if we look at Aeolian, the note that I tend to find is the color note with this is the flat 6. So if we play it in A and I go through, there's my flat 6 there, quite a dark sound. There's my flat 6 there. So that is the note we're going to be really working over these backing tracks to see if it fits. So let's try this John Mayer one again in C sharp. Oh yeah, I forgot about this. It's a 10-minute drum intro. Here we go. Flat 6. So that to me works. Now, again, I touched on this earlier. The flat 6 is quite a question note or like a tension building note. So it has that feeling to it, but harmonically it actually works. And if you pass over it and don't sit on it too long, it works really well. So if I keep playing that. So Aeolian or the minor scale is going to work really well with that. And just to give it, show you the context or give it some contrast, I'll play Dorian again with that natural 6 or major 6, and you'll hear how bad that sounds compared to this flat 6. So Dorian, right, really, really harsh. But if I do the flat 6 from Aeolian, okay, so I could use all my C sharp Aeolian shapes on the fretboard, and that's going to sound really good over this particular jam track. So this first one would be Aeolian. It would work over that. Let's try this one, this blues one. So Dorian didn't work over this one, so let's see if Aeolian does. So that works really well, especially over that chord change. So Aeolian's going to work well with that, because if you remember with Dorian worked over the first chord before, and then when it switched to the second chord of this track, didn't work as well. So Aeolian is going to work over both those chords. If you wanted to be fancy, you could switch between the two modes, but to begin with, I would probably avoid trying to do all that stuff too much. So yeah, Aeolian's going to work over these first two. Now, if we go to this Pink Floyd one, which we decided Dorian was going to be pretty good for, if we play Aeolian over this, we might find it doesn't work so well. Yeah, see that flat 6? It sounds absolutely terrible. Right, it doesn't sound like a tension building note, it just sounds like a wrong note. Right, you can hear the difference, whereas in the other jam tracks it sounded like it was building tension or like a question note, but it still fit. In this case, it just doesn't fit at all. If I play Dorian again, Dorian note, see that 6 works really well. If I play the flat 6, not so good over that one. Cool, so yeah, this one, like we established before, Dorian is going to be a good choice for that. Alright, let's look at this one. So this one, Dorian worked a little bit, didn't work over a few of the chords, and it just didn't really suit the vibe. So let's try this E minor Aeolian scale. Okay, so you can hear that flat 6 just slots in really nicely over this one. Cool. So over this track, I would say that Aeolian is going to be a really good choice. That flat 6 really suited the vibe of the track in general. It's just a bit of a darker sound. And yeah, there was no clashing over any of the chords. So Aeolian, by working that flat 6, I really got a good idea that that is going to be the mode to choose. Okay, moving on to the last mode that we're going to look at, and that is Phrygian. And I purposely left this one last because it's a very strong sound. So like, you will develop an ear for Phrygian very quickly, because any kind of track where you're going to play Phrygian over it, it has this kind of sound. Right, people call that like a Spanish kind of sound, Middle Eastern kind of vibe, or like a lot of metal. Right, that kind of thing. That's your Phrygian sort of vibe. Now there's going to be a few cases where Aeolian and Phrygian are going to work over certain things, but Phrygian is a very strong sound, so you don't want to overdo it. Maybe you do. It's up to you. But let's go through the shape first of all and figure out where the color note is, which is going to be the flat 2, or the second note in the scale for Phrygian. So if we're in A, we have our first note, then our flat 2. Right, there's our root note, flat 2 again. Flat 2, flat 2, flat 2. Cool, let's try this over some of these tracks again. Okay, the John Mayer one. So if we're in C sharp, right, you can see that flat 2 is just not it, really. Alright, so I wouldn't be soloing using Phrygian over this track. Okay, this blues one, can give it a go. Let's go back a bit. So an A. I mean, it kind of works, but it's definitely a strong sound. Let's see if it works on the chord change. Yeah, again, quite a strong sound. I don't know if I'd use it over this. I mean, you can sprinkle it in here and there if you like, but yeah, maybe not the right context for it. Now over this Pink Floyd one again. Skip forward a bit. Flat 2. Okay, we know if Aeolian didn't work over this, then Phrygian definitely isn't. Yeah, okay, that's not going to work. Now let's try over this one, because this could work. So if we're in E minor, let's wait for it to kick in a little bit. Right, this is going to work really well in this kind of metal context. That was a shocking bend. Okay, so here it sounds a bit clashy in this next section of the jam track. Okay, so Phrygian is definitely an option there, and sorry for my playing. Okay, I'm not trying to play my best necessarily. I'm just trying to show you the colors of these notes and Basically teach you something rather than show off. Excuses, right? Anyway, so that Phrygian would be a pretty good choice for this jam track, especially in that like A section. When it went to that other section, I might switch to Aeolian or something for that, but let's look at some more obvious examples of Phrygian. So here we have a Phrygian guitar backing track, which makes it obvious. And you'll hear this, right, that very obvious Phrygian sound. Right, you can just hear from the vibe of it. It's that Phrygian sound. That root chord and then a chord 1 fret up from it. Cool, if we listen to another one, Phrygian style jam track. Nice. Those ones in C. There's that Phrygian sound. Right, so Phrygian is going to work great over that sort of chord progression. You just want to try to develop that air and hear that flat 2 interval. Right, that kind of thing, or in a different key. That's going to be your Phrygian sound. And again, you will find situations where they're interchangeable, Phrygian and Aeolian. You can kind of get away with both. Like in this kind of thing, those kind of chord progressions. But bottom line is, and the conclusion of this whole video is just watch back, learn the color notes within the shape, really work those color notes over the track you're going to be playing over, because they are going to be the notes that make it the most obvious whether that mode is going to work in that context or not. So just to recap, Dorian, work that 6th, that major 6th. Aeolian, or the minor scale, really work that minor 6 or flat 6, and Phrygian, listen for that flat 2 and also play it. See if that sounds good, and if it does, then you can use that mode. So hopefully that was helpful. Make sure to leave a comment below if you have any questions, because I'm sure I skipped over some steps or something. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.